Lot going on in the world of the Cubs. Now that the WBC is over, it's time to get locked in on this roster. Obviously, Team USA did really well. Venezuela did really well, but a lot of the Cubs players really represented around the world stage. We're going to talk about that and the future of this Cubs team now that it's go time with Jesse Rogers here on the Cubs Baseball Channel. Help us get to 10,000 subscribers, friends. So go ahead and subscribe, and let's get this show started. All right, there he is, Jesse Rogers, talking Cubs with us every week. All right, Jess, let's get started right off the bat. Now that the WBC is over, some amazing performances by some Cubs players, but now it's time to kind of get locked back in on what the Cubs need these guys to do.
Yeah, but I mean, Bregman and PCA should be pretty locked in. I mean, they didn't necessarily get as many at bats because there were days off, but they got intense at bats, right? They got game situation at bats, and we saw PCA come through in a big way. And Bregman's been locked in since early in spring, so I'm not too worried about them so much as like Matthew Boyd, who came back and got hit on the backfields, for example. Like the pitchers are a different story. Taillon came back from Team Canada and got rocked in a spring game. So PCA and Bregman should be ready to rock and roll for the regular season. About a week to go. Those guys will probably get into games this weekend. It's not like they're going to bring them back and throw them right in. At least I don't think so. Give them a day or so. Maybe not this weekend, but certainly a day or so. By Friday, they'd be back in the lineup. So not too concerned about PCA and Bregman. Good prepper for the season. But Boyd and Taillon need to lock in for sure, especially Matthew Boyd, who's pitching opening day.
Yeah, really. And we talked about this last week. We speculated. I thought it could be Shota. You thought it could be Cade Horton. Both great picks, but it's going to be Matthew Boyd. What do you see the rotation looking like to start the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of lined up with Boyd number 1, Horton number 2, I believe Shota number 3, Taillon and Cabrera, or Cabrera Taillon. They can manipulate a little bit because there's a day off after opening day. There's several days off early in the season as they get the thing rolling. But certainly, I think Boyd and Horton are lined up for 1 and 2, and then we'll go from there. But the bigger question, Mick, is really, and this is, knock on wood, everyone's healthy. When Justin Steele comes back, let's say it's May 1st and everyone's healthy. Those are 4 veteran pitchers in Cade Horton, and certainly you're not taking Cade Horton out of the rotation. I don't think you're taking one of those other ones. So the question is, what happens then? I mean, a 6-man rotation is not unheard of in baseball in this day and age. And if you're talking about a 7-month season, right, that you want to play in, Matthew Boyd, who was gassed at the end of last year, Justin Steele coming back from injury, a young Cade Horton, there's reasons why you might want to go to a 6-man rotation. Again, we're a ways away from worrying about it, but it does make sense if everyone's healthy come the moment that Justin Steele comes back. And we haven't even talked about Javier Assad, who will be in the bullpen. So all good problems to have as long as everyone's performing. But as we know, injuries pop up. We saw that with Seiya Suzuki in the WBC.
Right. Yeah, I can remember Tommy Hotovy saying that he didn't like a 6-man rotation because it limits the back of your bullpen, right? But I'm with you on this, where you could have an abundance of starting pitching, and that would be huge for this team. I mean, every team wants an abundance of starting pitching. I mean, I can't imagine having Cade Horton in the minor leagues, just because he has options or something like that. Now, I think the other point that you're making is right on the money, and that's why I figure that they would consider it, is that I'd say every single pitcher on this staff has an injury history. So maybe you keep these guys fresh somehow by doing it, and it's something that we've seen done in the major leagues in Japan.
Yeah, and other teams are doing it a little bit as well. If you don't do it, what do you do? Does Justin Steele ease his way in the bullpen? That's about the only other option. You're like you said, you're not sending Cade Horton down. Even if there's one of those starters, like Taillon's going bad right now, I mean, you're going to give him 3 or 4 starts, then pull him out of the rotation. Like May 1st is too soon to pull someone out of the rotation, in my opinion. I mean, I guess if Taillon continues a whole nother month of struggles, different story, I suppose. But most of the time you give a veteran more than just April. So I don't see any other solution other than Steele in the bullpen, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So I think that's the only option, to be honest, unless you fake an injury and just give a guy a little bit of a break. But who needs a break on May 1st? They need it
Yeah,
on
right.
July 1st or August 1st. So let's get there. But it's a great problem to have if you're 6-7 deep in the rotation.
Yeah, I saw Justin Steele facing batters. Marquis put that out a
Yeah.
couple of days ago. And I'm like, man, this guy's trying to steam back, but you don't even know how effective he's going to be, even if he's capable of going out there and throwing the ball. How effective is that? The Cubs may slow play him if the rotation's strong in the big leagues. But I mean, there's no guarantee that just because you can pitch that you'll be good at it. I mean, think about Sandy Alcantara last year struggling with the Marlins for most of the season and finally got it figured out after the trade deadline, which was crazy.
Yeah, I think you're right about slow playing it. They can only slow play it so long. You can only leave a guy in the minors in a rehab situation for so long. But they'll try to max that out if everyone's healthy for sure. So great problem to have. But let's get Boyd and Tyon locked in. If you're a Cubs fan, you want to see that happen sooner rather than later.
Could there be a trade? I mean, with all these extra guys, I know you don't want to trade pitching when you're saying that you want to add pitching, right? Which is the message we've gotten from the front office. But Colin Ray, I know he's in the bullpen, but he doesn't want to be in the bullpen. And, really, he was an effective starter last year for the Cubs. He was an effective starter for Milwaukee. And then Javier Assad, we saw the best and, maybe not so great Javier Assad in the World Baseball Classic, but we know what he's capable of doing as well as a starter. Other teams could be desperate to get a starting pitcher. Is there a chance that the Cubs could make a deal?
I highly doubt it. You don't trade from that part of your team if you're trying to win a World Series, man. I'm telling you, and Jed knows it. Everyone knows it. And as soon as you trade from a strength, it becomes a weakness because you get an injury or two. No, this is the reason they compiled all those arms. You don't trade for Edward Cabrera if you're thinking, oh, we have too many, let's trade someone else. No. You keep them all. Someone is going to go down, maybe even in the next before opening day. And if not opening day, it'll be a week. You just don't do it if you're trying to win a World Series. You saw them run out of pitching last year. If they could have 6-7 starters that are ready to go in October, would be a miracle. And you'll be happy to have it and choose from them. They didn't have those choices last year. Shota struggled. Boyd was gassed. Horton was hurt. No way. You don't trade from that. That's the reason you traded for Edward Cabrera, and you're going to slow play Steele to have as much depth as you can. So I don't think they're going to trade from Colin Ray. I mean, I guess Javier Assad, there's a chance more than anybody, to be honest. But I don't think they should, and I don't think they will.
Guys, I want to remind you with the NCAA tournament starting, March Madness is officially here. We're doing it at AveD Mick Nation. So make sure that you go in there, fill out your bracket, have a great time winning cash and prizes. We do that constantly throughout the season. It's all free to you guys. Mick Nation at AveD. I've had this debate. I want you to jump in on it as well. I saw Owen Casey a lot. Okay, you know this. I'm a believer. World Baseball Classic. You guys now have seen Owen Casey. And look at the numbers, and even the at bat that Bednard struck him out in, it was like a 9-pitch battle. Like, this guy's not a slouch. Cubs gave up what could potentially be a very painfully good player, but they got back Edward Cabrera. And I got to tell you, Edward Cabrera has been amazing too in camp. So this could work out to be one of those trades where both teams get what they want, but it's awful nerve-wracking as a 40-year Cubs fan because it feels like we always trade away somebody and then we're like, hey, didn't we have that guy? And then he's on another team mashing.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last week a little bit. I like Owen Casey as well. I'm not sure the Cubs thought of him in the same way as they think of, let's say, Moises Ballesteros as a hitter, for example. That's why they traded one and not the other. But I agree with you. I think he could be a player. But Edward Cabrera looks like a live arm, and it could just be a good baseball trade. But I like big, strong guys, and he certainly is one. He can hit. You traded Yu Darvish for him, so it's really, it's in a way Yu Darvish for Edward Cabrera years later. You're getting Edward Cabrera because Owen Casey is the lone guy left from the Darvish trade, basically. So I don't disagree with you, but you just hope that Edward Cabrera is really good. And then you don't worry if Owen Casey is really good because that's okay. good player for good player is okay. It's just that if Cabrera's hurt and Owen Casey rakes, you're going to regret it a little bit. But we liked Owen Casey a little bit better than the Cubs did.
Yeah. Well, these are the trades that get you fired. I'm just telling you that right now, because if it backfires on you, I'm telling you down the road though, when you trade Dontrell Willis and he's at the Marlins and your owner's like, hey, wait a second, didn't we have Dontrell Willis? And they're like, yeah, we had him, but we didn't really know. Chris Archer.
Hey, Mick, what if Edward Cabrera is a Cy Young candidate? Then
it gets you an extension. That means
the Marlins president might be fired.
Right. That's why it's hard to make these deals, though. And I'm not picking on the Cubs front office. I'm just saying, like, in general, like, just throw it, blanket out there. When you trade guys that are first-round talents, like Cam Smith, like Owen Casey, and I just know our farm system. I don't really. I saw Edward Cabrera strike out 7 or 8 guys to start a game one time in the minor leagues. Yeah, he's a badass. Don't get me wrong here, but what happens is that they used to trade these guys, and the front office guys will tell you this. They traded Owen Casey when he was 18 because they didn't want him. The Padres didn't want him coming back the next year. That front office, like, hey, we just traded that guy, and now all of a sudden he's like rookie of the year, right? You traded Fernando Tatis Jr. He's a young guy, but by the time he got to the big leagues, the White Sox front office was feeling some heat for dealing him away.
Yeah, true. I like Owen Casey. Let's see how the trade works out. Let's see how each scouting department and a young development department, whatever you want to call it, deals with their young players. Cabrera's young, Owen Casey's young. Let's see who turns out to be better and who turned out to have the better side of the trade. I suspect there'll be some successes on both sides because both players are talented.
Yeah. All right, a couple more questions before we let you go. Always great to hang out with Jesse. You guys know him from ESPN. The World Baseball Classic, I like it. Actually, I love it. Okay, I think it's been a smashing success. I think I've said this a million times on the channel, but when I used to talk to Tommy Lasorda, this was his baby, right? Absolutely loved the international competition, and it was because they took us out of the Olympics, baseball. But, when Seiya gets hurt and, there's some other players that get hurt, and the timing of it interferes with spring training. You're also talking about a sport that has people that get paid a ton of money that don't necessarily, it's like, hey, I don't know if I should do this or not, like Scooble, where he really wants to do it, but he's afraid. Do you think that it's been a success, and do you think that we're going to end up with more World Baseball Classic?
Yeah, it's a success. It is. But take it for what it is. It is a little bit of a made-for-TV thing. Okay, Team USA is always put in the pool where they can advance. The bracket is a little bit easier for them. This is in the States. It's TV. It's made for TV. You want the ratings. They're always crossing their fingers that the U.S. is in it. It's a bigger country. They want Japan in it as well. That's why the USA and Japan are always on opposite sides. So, I mean, it's fine, but yeah, you do have to worry a little bit about injury. Until Seiya and a couple other guys got hurt, there really weren't that many players getting hurt in this thing. Edward Diaz famously, but from celebrating, not from pitching. Like, we haven't seen too many arm injuries. We haven't seen too many. I'm talking about over the years, Mick.
Yeah, right.
But we saw a couple this year. Is it going to keep Seiya out for the season? No. But you just got to deal with it. I mean, it is what it is. It's a long baseball season. You can't have the best of both worlds. You want the WBC, you want a world international competition. The potential for injury is there. I do think there's a good chance it gets moved to the All-Star break if the Olympics works. That's the roadmap for having this at the All-Star break, but you get hurt there too. Yeah. So there's no perfect time for it. There just isn't. You just deal with it. It's not life or death. Your teams, in this case, the Cubs could be missing Seiya for a little bit, or whoever on some other teams that had some injuries, like the Sox with Kyle Teal. You just deal with it. I mean, it's not great, but if you want the international competition, whether it be All-Star break now, whenever, you're going to have this possibility of an injury impacting your team.
Well said. Don't forget about Beer Money. That's our show with Jody Davis every Sunday, where we talk about stuff like what he saw Harry Carey drinking when he would go into the same bar as Harry, and it was martinis, not beer. Or he always has a good Rick Sutcliffe, or our Greg Maddux stories. Some of the Greg Maddux stories that we know we don't tell on our show, but we tell a lot of them. So you guys make sure you come check us out every Sunday. Plus, we talk about obviously the current team that's rolling right now. And he's a Cubs Hall of Famer, gets inducted with his blue jacket August 30th. So we're going to have a lot of fun, hopefully in Wrigleyville throughout the summer, live doing some shows there so you can meet him as well. All right, final question for you. Roster battles. This is the week where you really start to cut this roster down. What do you think about the reserve outfield spot? How's that look to you a week later? And then, maybe a final bullpen spot or two.
Yeah, I think Carlson and Conforto are kind of locked in a battle here with McCormick a little bit behind them. That's just my read of the situation. Carlson got off to a hot start. Conforto was a little bit late. But Conforto kind of has the better resume and pedigree, so to speak. So that's going to come down to the final, days, really, in terms of that outfield battle. It does look like Matt Shaw is going to get run at first base behind Michael Busch as that right-handed option. So they might be okay there, because I thought, when Tyler Austin went down, they might have to bring someone in or move Conforto or Carlson to first base. But it looks like Shaw is going to be the backup first baseman, as well as the right backup, right fielder, third baseman, second baseman, So, but Ballesteros has shown well. He could play some first also. Question mark about Kevin Alcantara. I just don't know the answer. Does he start in the minors or up in the majors? That's the big question down to the final days as well. So Alcantara, Carlson, Conforto, and then is Shaw really your backup first base, are kind of the things I'm following.
Is there anyone out that we would expect to be in?
Well, Porter Hodge went down. He would have been someone that I would have put on the bubble that you might think is in and is out. But Kevin Alcantara would be the only one you might think is in and could start the year in the minors. I think everyone else is kind of pegged in. I mean, there's a veteran team for the most part, incorporating young players, but sort of, Shaw has a spot, PCA has a spot. The young players aren't bubble guys necessarily, other than Alcantara. So I don't think we'll be too surprised by any of the cut downs in the final days here. Even if they cut Carlson and keep Conforto, I won't be shocked, or vice versa. So I think it's for a team like this, contending veteran team, I think you're not necessarily going to be surprised as they head north for opening day.
Awesome stuff, Jess. How can people follow you? How can they find you? And what are you working on?
At ESPN, at Jesse Rogers ESPN is my Twitter handle. At Jesse Rogers ESPN. I'm working on some fun stuff. I'll give you a little tease. This is the 10-year anniversary of the Cubs World Series win, right? In 16, Mick, you're around for that. And I have a really fun, 10-year anniversary story that I'm going to run when the Cubs go to Cleveland the second week of the season, where they won the World Series. So I'm not going to reveal much more than that, but you'll check that out at ESPN.com. That's the Friday that they go to Cleveland, opening week. I think that's April 3rd, second week of the season. So fun 10-year anniversary story coming your way regarding the Cubs. And, of course, opening day coverage is coming as well.
I remember Len Casper looked at me. They were all on the field, and they were doing their exercising. There was a DJ playing. Joe Madden's there. Looking at all these stars. He goes, this is the golden age for the Cubs. We won the World Series.
It was pretty cool.
So funny.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun covering that. Hey, guys, the Rat Pack cards, whatnot, they do auctions every day. Got one at 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern today. If you collect cards, you need to check this out. They are one of the only accredited repacking cards. They can buy, sell, and trade on Whatnot. You're going to love it. So check it out on Whatnot. And we will get back together with you next week. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Go Cubs.